The rain that morning was the kind that gets under your skin. Not a downpour, just steady drizzle that soaked through black coats and settled into bones. St. Michael's Church smelled of lilies and wet umbrellas. I registered faces without really seeing them. Neighbors, colleagues from Robert's law firm, distant relatives. My husband's coffin stood at the front, draped with white roses. Karen's choice, not mine. Robert had hated white roses, said they looked sterile, like hospital flowers. The detail haunted me as if the whole ceremony were slightly off. "Mom," Sarah squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure what okay meant anymore. My daughter's face was puffy from crying. She was 28, married, capable, but right now she looked like the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. "Where's your brother?" Sarah's expression flickered. "Emily said he couldn't make it. Something about work. Work. Our father was dead, and Michael couldn't take a day off." The pastor began speaking. I stopped hearing the actual words, focusing instead on rain against the stained glass windows. Rhythmic, hypnotic. Then I saw him. Robert stood near the back of the church, half hidden behind two men from his firm. He wore a gray jacket I'd never seen. His face looked thinner, but it was unmistakably him. My breath caught. He met my eyes with that deliberate, focused look I knew so well. No panic, no confusion, just intention. Slowly, he raised one finger to his lips. "Don't speak." The room tilted. I gripped the pew in front of me. This wasn't possible. Robert was dead. He was in that coffin 10 feet away. The police had confirmed it. Karen had handled all the arrangements. "Mom?" Sarah's grip tightened. "What's wrong?" Karen touched my shoulder, her perfume overwhelming. "Laura, sweetheart, you need to sit down. You look pale." Her hand felt possessive, not comforting. I let her guide me back onto the pew while my mind screamed. I looked back toward where Robert had been standing. Empty space. The two men from his firm stood there alone. No gray jacket, no impossible ghost. I searched the faces around me. No one looked back with knowing eyes. Maybe grief had finally cracked something inside me, but I didn't believe that. I'd seen him. I knew I'd seen him. The service ended in a blur of condolences. He was a good man. He'll be missed. Sarah stayed close, one arm linked through mine. Her husband Daniel hovered nearby with that polite, professional smile, but his eyes kept tracking me, calculating something. "Laura!" Karen appeared as we moved toward the exit. "You shouldn't drive yourself home. Come with me. Daniel can take Sarah." It wasn't a suggestion. "I'll be fine," I said. "I just need some time alone." Karen's eyes narrowed, then softened. "Of course, darling. Just don't isolate yourself. Grief does strange things to people." She patted my arm and walked away, her black umbrella tilting like a shield. Outside, I stood under the church awning, pretending to fix my coat while people dispersed. I pulled out my phone. One new message. Unknown number. Run. They're watching us. The words hit me like cold water. I read them again. They're watching us. Not you. Us. Whoever sent this was including themselves with me. The message had come in 1 minute ago. I looked up slowly. A black SUV sat parked across the street. Tinted windows. Engine running. Headlights pointed directly at me. My stomach tightened. Karen and Daniel stood near the church entrance, talking. As I watched, Karen glanced in my direction. Daniel said something, and she nodded, slipping her phone back into her coat pocket. It felt choreographed. I moved toward my car, hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. The moment I was inside, I locked the doors and started the engine. Another message appeared. "Don't go home." In the rearview mirror, Karen and Daniel were walking toward their cars. Not hurrying, just watching. I didn't think. I just drove. At the intersection, my phone buzzed again. Trust no one, not even them. I drove for an hour before I could think clearly. The public library stayed open until 9. I pulled into the lot and sat watching for anyone who might have followed. The lot was nearly empty. No black SUV. Inside, I found a computer station in the back corner and searched for news about Robert's accident. Local attorney found dead after car accident on Route 27. Vehicle fire. Body identified through dental records. The photo showed the car melted into asphalt, unrecognizable. But Robert never took Route 27. He hated that road. Called it a death trap. I pulled up the police report. Time of incident, 11:42 p.m. p.m. Body identified through dental records from Dr. Marcus Hayes' office. Then I saw it. The coroner's report listed time of death as 12:06 a.m. Location, 15 miles from the crash site. How could they confirm death 15 miles away from where the crash occurred? A memory surfaced. 2 weeks before the accident, Robert had come home late and sat on the edge of our bed, his face drawn. If something happens to me, Laura, don't trust anyone who tells you what to think about it. Not even Karen. At the time, I thought it was stress. Now I understood. He'd known something was coming. I went back to searching and found Robert's email account. Most folders were empty, wiped clean, except one hidden folder, Archive. Inside were 3 messages from J. Martinez. The most recent, dated 3 days before the accident. You were right. It's bigger than we thought. I opened it. Rob, I've confirmed it. The firm has been moving money through shell companies for 18 months. Your sister's trust, Collins Group Holdings, is the main funnel. But it's not just Karen. Michael's wife, Emily, is signing off on the transfers. They're using your name to authorize. You're the fall guy. I'm leaving town tonight. You should too. Destroy everything. JM, the words blurred as I read them again. Emily, not Daniel, not some stranger. Emily, Michael's wife. The quiet, sweet daughter-in-law who'd helped Robert organize his files. Who'd said, "Let me help, Dad, I studied accounting." She'd been embezzling from his firm the entire time. I sat in the library parking lot until my legs went numb. Then I drove to a convenience store 3 towns over and bought a prepaid phone with cash. I needed confirmation about those dental records. I dialed Dr. Marcus Hayes' office. After hours, but maybe I'd get lucky. The answering machine clicked on. I left a message. Dr. Hayes, this is Laura Anderson. I need to speak with you about dental records sent to the coroner for my husband, Robert Anderson. Please call me back at this number. It's urgent. Then I found a cheap motel off Highway 27 West, paid cash, and locked myself inside. The room smelled like industrial cleaner. I opened Robert's email again, reading through J. Martinez's messages one by one. A colleague investigating the embezzlement. Someone who'd warned Robert to run. The prepaid phone rang at 10 p.m. Mrs. Anderson, this is Dr. Marcus Hayes. Relief flooded through me. Dr. Hayes, thank you for calling back. I need to ask about the dental records you sent to the coroner for my husband. Pause. Mrs. Anderson, I didn't send any dental records to the coroner. The room tilted. Someone accessed Robert's file remotely 2 days before the accident, he continued. The access came from an IP address I didn't recognize. I'm filing a police report. My mouth was dry. Dr. Hayes, could someone use those records to identify a different body? Longer pause. With a burned body, dental records are often the only identification method. If someone had unauthorized access and a body of similar age and dental structure, theoretically, yes. Thank you for telling me. I hung up. Robert was alive. Someone had staged his death using falsified dental records. And Emily was involved. But where was Robert now? And where was Michael? I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m., I gave up and made instant coffee. I needed to call Michael. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried Emily's number, also voicemail. Sarah called my old phone repeatedly. Finally, I answered. Mom, where are you? We've been trying to reach you all night. I'm fine, sweetheart. I needed some space. Aunt Karen has been calling everyone. Daniel and I drove by the house. You're not there. Sarah, listen. Have you talked to your brother? What? No. Why? When's the last time you spoke to him? Silence. The day before Dad died. He had a big project at work. Why? What about Emily? She texted yesterday. Said Michael's in Seattle for a conference and his phone's been acting up. Seattle? The words felt wrong. Mom, you're scaring me. I need you to do something. Don't tell anyone you talk to me. Not Daniel, not Aunt Karen, not Emily. Can you do that? Okay, she finally said. But Mom, what's happening? I don't know yet. I love you. I hung up and started searching online. Collins Group Holdings, Karen's Family Trust. Public records showed $4.7 million moving through the company over 18 months. Source, Anderson and Associates Law Firm. They'd been embezzling from Robert's practice, using his name to authorize transfers. When Robert discovered it, he became a liability. But Michael, where was Michael? He'd disappeared the day before Robert's death. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Meet me. Warehouse on Dock Street. Midnight. Come alone. R. Robert. I needed to see the grave first. Riverside Cemetery was nearly empty that afternoon. Robert's grave sat beneath a maple tree, the soil too fresh, like it had been turned recently. I thought I'd find you here. Karen stood 10 feet away in a black coat carrying white roses. You've been hard to reach. People are worried. I needed time alone. Of course. She placed the roses on the grave. Grief makes us see patterns where there aren't any. I stood slowly. What kind of patterns? You tell me. You're the one asking strange questions. Her smile was kind, but her eyes were cold. Who's in this grave, Laura? Is it strange? Robert hated white roses. You chose them anyway. He wanted cremation. You buried him. Nothing about this was what he wanted. Grief is making you paranoid. I talked to Dr. Hayes. Someone accessed Robert's dental records illegally 2 days before the accident. Karen's eyes hardened. You should stop digging into things you don't understand. For your own good. For Sarah's good. Is that a threat? She stepped closer. It's advice. Robert got involved in things he couldn't handle. You mean your embezzlement scheme? Collins Group Holdings? The $4.7 million you stole? Karen's smile vanished. You stupid woman. You think you figured something out? I know you used Emily to steal from Robert. I know you used his name, and when he found out, you made him disappear. Robert was weak. Venom dripped from her words. He was going to destroy everything I built. I did what I had to do. Where is my son? Karen laughed, sharp and bitter. Ask your husband. Oh, wait, you can't. He's dead. She turned and walked away. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the lie carved in stone. My phone buzzed. Meet me. Warehouse on Dock Street. Midnight. Come alone. I got in my car and drove toward the docks. I didn't go straight to the warehouse. That would have been stupid. Instead, I stopped at the motel and wrote everything down. Every detail, every email, every inconsistency in the police report. I sealed it in an envelope and left it with the desk clerk, along with $50 cash. If I don't come back by 2 a.m., I told him, give this to the police. He looked at the envelope, then at me. You in some kind of trouble, lady? I hope not. I also sent a coded message to Sarah. Remember where Dad proposed? I'm at the place he worked on the harbor case. She'd understand. Robert had proposed at the aquarium, and his first big case as a young lawyer involved dock workers' rights at the shipping yard. If something happened to me, Sarah would know where to look. The warehouse on Dock Street sat at the edge of the industrial district, surrounded by abandoned buildings and empty lots. At 11:30 p.m., the area was dead. No cars, no people, just the sound of water lapping against the docks and the distant hum of the highway. One light burned inside the warehouse, visible through grimy windows. I parked a block away and walked, pepper spray in one pocket, phone recording in the other. The warehouse door was unlocked. I pushed it open slowly. Laura. The voice came from the shadows. Then Robert stepped into the light. He looked different, thinner. A beard covered his jaw. His clothes were worn like he'd been wearing them for days, but his eyes, those were the same. Sharp, focused, alive. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Prove you're real, I said. He smiled faintly. Our first date. I took you to the aquarium. You cried at the jellyfish exhibit because you said they looked lonely. My eyes burned. You bastard. You let me bury you. There was no other way. There's always another way. No. His voice was firm. Laura, listen to me. I couldn't go to the police. Karen has people inside the department. Judge Morrison plays golf with her every week. Captain Reeves owes her favors. If I'd gone to them, she would have known within an hour. So you just disappeared? Let me think you were dead? I saw how they watched you at the funeral. If you knew I was alive, you'd act differently. Karen would see it. They'd use you to get to me. He stepped closer. I watched you bury me, Laura. I stood in the back of that church and watched you cry. Do you think that was easy? I wanted to hit him. I wanted to collapse into his arms. Instead, I just stood there shaking. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Send a message? Something? I did. Today, after the funeral. He pulled out a phone. Those texts were from me. I've been tracking you since you left the church. Then you know I found the emails from Jay Martinez. Robert nodded. Jason Martinez, former prosecutor, now FBI Financial Crimes Unit. He's been helping me build a case against Karen and Emily. Emily, the name tasted bitter. Where's Michael, Robert? Where's our son? His face darkened. The light seemed to drain from his eyes. I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? My voice rose. He's your son. I know. Robert's jaw tightened. 2 days before the accident, Michael came to my office. He'd found something on Emily's laptop. Transfer records, fake invoices. He was furious. What did you tell him? Everything. About Karen's embezzlement, about Collins Group Holdings, about how they were using my name to authorize millions in fraudulent transfers. Robert ran a hand through his hair. He wanted to go to the police immediately. I told him to wait. Said we needed more evidence, more time. And? He stormed out. Said he was going to confront Emily himself. I tried to stop him, but Robert's voice cracked. That was the last time I saw him. The next day, his car was found abandoned at Riverside Park. No signs of struggle, no blood, nothing. My legs felt weak. I found a crate and sat down hard. The police ruled it voluntary disappearance, Robert continued. Said he was under stress, probably needed time away, but I knew they'd gotten to him. Emily? Or Karen? Or both? He knelt in front of me. Laura, I think they took him. I think they're holding him somewhere to keep him quiet. Or... He couldn't finish the sentence. Or they killed him. The words came out flat, empty. I don't know. I've been trying to find out, but they're too careful. No paper trail. No communication I can intercept. Jason's been helping, but why should I trust Jason Martinez? I interrupted. How do I know he's really FBI? How do I know this isn't all some elaborate trap? Robert pulled out his phone and showed me a badge photo. Jason Martinez, Special Agent, FBI Financial Crimes Division. Then he opened an email thread between Jason and someone at FBI headquarters discussing Operation Harbor, the investigation into Anderson and Associates. He's real, Robert said, and he's risking his career to help us. This case involves Russian organized crime. The Volkov family. That's why we had to be so careful. The Volkov family? The name meant nothing to me. They're the ones Karen borrowed money from. $2 million 3 years ago. She used the firm as collateral. When she couldn't pay them back, they forced her to start laundering their money through our practice. That's what Emily was really doing. Not just embezzlement. Money laundering for the Russian mob. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. And when you found out, I became a liability. Karen couldn't risk me going to the authorities, so she made a deal with the Volkovs. Stage my death, blame the missing money on me, and they'd write off her debt. But you escaped. With Jason's help. We found a body. Homeless man, no family, died of natural causes. Similar age and build. We staged the accident and switched the dental records. He touched my face. I wanted to tell you. Every day. But if they suspected you knew, they'd kill me too. I finished the thought. And Sarah. Robert nodded. So what's the plan? We can't just hide forever. We need to find Michael. And we need enough evidence to bring down Karen, Emily, and their Volkov connection all at once. Jason thinks we're close, but we need something concrete, something that directly ties them to Michael's disappearance. I thought about the envelope I'd left at the motel, about Karen's cold eyes at the cemetery, about Emily's fake smiles across family dinners. I'm going back, I said. What? Karen invited me to stay with her, said I shouldn't be alone. I'm going to accept. Laura, no, that's too dangerous. She has files, records, something that can lead us to Michael. You said it yourself. There's no paper trail you can find from the outside, so I'll find it from the inside. If she suspects anything, she won't. I'll be the grieving widow, broken, compliant. She'll think she's won. I stood up. You said you watched me bury you. You said it wasn't easy. Well, now I'm going to watch her bury herself. Robert stared at me for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, but you wear a wire, and Jason will have agents nearby at all times. The moment you're in danger, we pull you out. Agreed. He pulled me into his arms then, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself cry. Not from grief anymore. From rage. The next morning I called Karen. Laura? She sounded surprised. Where are you? We've all been so worried. I'm sorry. I made my voice small, broken. I wasn't thinking clearly. The funeral, seeing Robert in that coffin. I just drove. I ended up at some motel and I couldn't. I let out a convincing sob. Oh, sweetheart, it's okay. Where are you now? Still at the motel, but I want to come back. You were right. I shouldn't be alone. Of course you shouldn't. Relief colored her voice. Come stay with me. We're family, Laura. Let me take care of you. I arrived at Karen's estate that afternoon. The house was modern and cold, all glass and steel and sharp angles. She welcomed me with open arms and false sympathy. You'll stay in the guest room, she said, showing me upstairs. It's quiet. You can rest. Thank you. I don't know how to do this. How to live without him. One day at a time. She squeezed my hand. That's all any of us can do. That evening, Emily came for dinner. I almost lost my composure when she walked through the door, smiling that warm smile, calling me Mom. I wanted to come support you, she said, hugging me. I know how hard this is. I hugged her back, feeling the wire taped to my ribs, knowing Robert and Jason were listening to every word. Where's Michael? I asked as we sat down to eat. Seattle, big client presentation. Emily's lie was smooth. You know how he gets with work, completely absorbed. He hasn't called me. Cell service is terrible where he's staying. Some corporate retreat center in the mountains. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. He'll call as soon as he can. He's devastated about losing his father. Karen watched us throughout dinner. Every time I spoke, her eyes tracked my reactions, testing me. After dinner, Karen announced she needed to run to the pharmacy. Emily, come with me. I need you to pick up my prescription. I can go alone. I need you to come. Karen's tone left no room for argument. They left. The house fell silent. I moved fast. Karen's home office was at the end of the hall, door locked. But I remembered seeing her retrieve a spare key from the kitchen drawer once. I found it and let myself in. The office was pristine. Mahogany desk, leather chair, computer locked with a password. But the filing cabinet wasn't locked. Karen's arrogance, assuming no one would dare look. Inside I found folders. Dozens of them. Transfer documents between Collins Group and offshore accounts. Emails printed out. Correspondence with N. Volkov. Loan agreements showing Karen had borrowed $2 million and used the firm as collateral. And then at the bottom of the drawer, a photograph. Michael, tied to a chair. His face was bruised, one eye swollen shut. But he was alive. My hands shook as I held the photograph. I flipped it over. On the back, written in pen, VK2847, Dock 7, a shipping container number. I heard a car pulling up outside. They were back early. I quickly photographed everything with my phone, returned the files, locked the office, and replaced the key. My heart hammered as I ran to the bathroom and flushed the toilet just as the front door opened. "Laura?" Karen's voice called out. "Just a second." I washed my hands, composing my face into something neutral, and emerged into the hallway. Karen stood there, studying me. "Are you feeling all right? You look flushed." "Just a headache. I think I'll turn in early." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Of course. Rest well." In the guest room, I locked the door and immediately texted the photos to Robert using the prepaid phone. Then I sent the container number, VK2847, Dock 7, Michael is alive. His reply came within seconds. "Don't do anything. We're coming." But I couldn't wait. My son was alive, beaten, held captive in a shipping container less than 20 minutes away. Every minute I waited was another minute he suffered. I waited until midnight, then slipped out the guest room window. Karen's spare car keys hung in the mudroom. I took them and drove toward the industrial docks, the same area where I'd met Robert the night before. The shipping yard was massive, rows and rows of containers stacked like metal building blocks. I found Dock 7 and searched for container VK2847. There, near the back fence. A heavy padlock secured the door. I pressed my ear against the metal. "Michael?" I whispered. Silence, then a weak voice. "Mom?" Relief and horror flooded through me. "Oh God, baby, I'm here. I'm going to get you out." "No." "Trap. They knew you'd come." Light flooded the yard. I spun around. Emily stood 30 feet away with two large men in dark clothes. Men who looked like they broke things professionally. Emily smiled. "Hello, Laura. I was wondering when you'd show up." "Let him go," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "This is between you and me." Emily laughed. "Is it? Did you really think a random accountant would marry into your family by chance?" She walked closer, her face transforming from sweet daughter-in-law to something cold and calculating. "My Uncle Nikolai needed someone inside Anderson and Associates. Your firm handles half the real estate transactions in this city." "Perfect for washing money. Michael was my assignment." She shrugged. "Fall in love, get married, get access. It was almost too easy." "You never loved him." "I did my job. Michael made it convenient. Desperate for approval, desperate to be seen. Pathetic, really." From inside the container, Michael shouted, "Emily, please, we can fix this." "There's nothing to fix." Emily's voice was ice. "You were always just a means to an end." I lunged at her. One of the men grabbed me, arms like steel cables pinning mine behind my back. "You know what's funny?" Emily circled me like a predator. "Robert thought he was so clever, faking his death. But we knew. We always knew." My blood went cold. "What?" Karen figured it out the day after the funeral. The body was the wrong weight, wrong height, if you looked at the autopsy report closely. Emily smiled, but she didn't tell us to find Robert. She told us to watch you. Why? Because she knew Robert couldn't stay away. Eventually, he'd contact you. And tonight, when you snuck out of Karen's house? Emily pulled out her phone, showing me a text from Karen. She called me immediately. The trap closed around me. "So thank you, Laura. You just led us right to—" Actually, she led you to me. Robert stepped out from behind a row of containers. Behind him came Jason Martinez and 6 FBI agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn. "Did you really think I'd let Laura come alone?" Robert's voice was cold. "We've been tracking your communications for weeks. Every call to Volkov, every transfer." Jason held up his badge. "Emily Volkov, you're under arrest for money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, kidnapping, and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent." Emily tried to run. 2 agents grabbed her. "Karen!" she screamed. "This is on you. You promised we'd be safe." The 2 men with her raised their hands immediately, recognizing they were outgunned. More agents appeared, cutting off all exits. One team moved to the shipping container, bolt cutters ready. "I loved him," Emily said suddenly, looking at me. Tears ran down her face. Real or fake, I couldn't tell. "I really did love Michael, but family comes first. You understand that, don't you?" "You're not family," I said quietly. "You never were." The container door swung open. Michael stumbled out, supported by EMTs. His face was battered, but his eyes found mine. "Mom!" I ran to him, catching him as he collapsed into my arms. He smelled like blood and fear and 3 days without a shower. But he was alive. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have listened to Dad." "Shh. You're safe now." "Where's Karen?" Robert asked Emily. She laughed, bitter and broken. "You think she'd come herself? She knew you might have backup. She's already gone." Jason cursed. "Teams at her house? Her office? You'll never find her," Emily said. "She has exit strategies in 6 countries. By morning, she'll be in Moscow with the Volkovs." Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. "Mom!" I turned. Sarah and Daniel had just arrived. Sarah's face white with shock at the scene. Agents, weapons, Michael bleeding. She ran to us, throwing her arms around Michael. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Daniel stood frozen, staring at Robert like he'd seen a ghost. "Mr. Anderson, I thought you were dead." "I know." Robert's voice was tired. "I'm sorry for the deception." "And Aunt Karen, she really—" "Yes." Daniel's face crumbled. Whatever illusions he'd had about his extended family shattered visibly. As Emily was loaded into an FBI van, she looked at me one last time through the window. "You didn't win, Laura. Karen still has all the money. She's free. You saved your son, but you lost everything else." I held Michael tighter, feeling his heartbeat against mine. Sarah pressed against my other side. Robert stood behind us, his hand on my shoulder. Daniel hovered awkwardly but didn't leave. "I have my family," I said, though Emily couldn't hear me anymore. "That's everything." Robert leaned close. "It's over." But I looked at the agents spreading out, at the APB being issued for Karen Anderson, and knew the truth. "No," I said quietly. "Not until we find her." The FBI field office smelled like burnt coffee and fluorescent lighting. We'd been there for 6 hours, giving statements, answering questions, while Michael was treated at the hospital under armed guard. He had 3 broken ribs, a concussion, and severe dehydration, but he was alive. Jason Martinez sat across from us in an interrogation room that doubled as a conference space. Robert held my hand under the table. Sarah and Daniel sat to my right, all of us exhausted. Karen Anderson boarded a private plane to Montreal 3 hours before we raided the shipping yard, Jason said, sliding photos across the table. From there, she could be anywhere: Canada, Europe, Russia. "What about her money?" Robert asked. "We've frozen her domestic accounts, but she moved most of it offshore weeks ago. $3.2 million is unrecoverable." Jason leaned back. "The Volkov family is another issue. Nikolai Volkov is very interested in getting his niece back, and very angry at Karen for the exposure." I looked up. "So we're not safe, even with Emily arrested." "That's why I need to discuss your options." Jason pulled out a folder. "The Bureau is offering witness protection, new identities, relocation, financial support. All of you. Robert, Laura, Michael, Sarah, and Daniel, if he chooses." Sarah's voice was small. "Leave everything behind? Our whole lives? Or stay and hope the Russian mob doesn't decide to tie up loose ends?" Jason's tone was blunt. "I won't lie to you. The Volkovs have long memories. Emily was family. They'll want revenge." Daniel spoke for the first time in an hour. "How long would we have to decide?" 72 hours. After that, the window closes." Robert squeezed my hand. "Can we have the room?" Jason nodded and left, closing the door behind him. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Sarah was crying quietly. Daniel had his arm around her, but looked lost. Robert stared at the table. I felt hollowed out, scraped clean. "I can't just disappear," Sarah finally said. "My job, my friends, my entire life is here." "Your life won't matter if you're dead," Daniel said gently. "We should take it." Robert's voice was heavy. "I've been in hiding for weeks. It's not living, but it's surviving." "What about Michael?" I asked. "He's in the hospital. He can't make this decision right now." "Then we make it for him." Robert looked at me. "Laura, what do you think?" I thought about Karen's cold eyes, about Emily's betrayal, about Michael tied to that chair, about the life we'd built over 30 years, all of it contaminated now by lies and blood money. "I think," I said slowly, "that I want to talk to our son first." Michael's hospital room was private, paid for by the FBI. An agent stood outside the door. Inside, my son looked small in the hospital bed, bandages wrapped around his ribs, an IV in his arm. But his eyes were clear when I entered. "Hey, Mom." I pulled a chair close and took his hand. For a moment, I just looked at him, really looked. When had he grown up? When had the baby I'd nursed become this man with bruises on his face and betrayal in his eyes? "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." He tried to smile. "Turns out being held hostage isn't great for your health." "Michael." I knew. The words came out in a rush. "About Emily. I knew for months." I went still. I found a text on her phone from someone named N, talking about the operation and the family. I confronted her. His voice cracked. She cried, said it was about her family's business back in Russia, nothing illegal. She was so convincing, Mom, and I wanted to believe her. So I did. "Oh, sweetheart. Dad warned me. He said that woman will destroy you. I called him paranoid. I chose her over him." Tears ran down Michael's face. "And now Dad's dead. I mean, he was supposed to be dead, and it's my fault because if I'd just listened." "Stop." I gripped his hand tighter. "Michael, look at me. You didn't cause this. Karen did. Emily did. The Volkovs did. You were a victim. But I brought her into our family. And she lied to all of us. That's on her, not you." He closed his eyes. Do you think I'll ever be able to trust anyone again?" The question broke my heart because I didn't have an answer. Sarah and Daniel came in then, followed by Robert. For a few minutes, we were just a family in a hospital room, grateful to be together and whole. Then Jason knocked and entered with papers. "I need your decisions," he said. "Witness protection. Yes or no?" We looked at each other. Sarah bit her lip. Daniel stared at the floor. Michael's expression was unreadable. Robert waited for me to speak. "No," I said. Everyone turned. "We're not running." I stood up. "Karen wants us to hide, to disappear, to let her win. I won't give her that satisfaction." "Laura," Robert started. "How long?" I asked Jason. "How long until the trial? Until Emily testifies?" 4 to 6 months. "And once she testifies, once the Volkov connection is exposed in court, they'll be too busy dealing with federal prosecution to worry about revenge, right?" Jason hesitated. "Theoretically, but then we stay, we testify, we see this through." I looked at my family. "Together." Sarah wiped her eyes. "I'm with Mom." Michael nodded slowly. "Me too." Daniel cleared his throat. "If Sarah stays, I stay." Robert was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. Really smiled for the first time in weeks. "You're terrifying when you're determined, you know that?" I learned from the best. 3 days later, I was back at the motel. The FBI had set me up with protection, an agent in the parking lot, cameras in the room. But I needed to be accessible. If Karen was going to make contact, she'd do it when I was alone. I was right. The call came at 11 p.m. Unknown number. "Hello?" "Hello, Laura." Karen's voice was smooth, controlled, like she was commenting on the weather. I signaled to the agent monitoring me. He immediately started the trace. "Karen, where are you?" "Somewhere you'll never find me. Living quite comfortably, actually." "What do you want?" "To tell you that you've won nothing." Her voice hardened. "I'm free. I'm rich. And you? You're about to spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder." "I'd rather look over my shoulder than be the monster in the mirror." She laughed. "Still so self-righteous. That's why Robert loved you, and why he always needed me to handle the difficult decisions." "Like trying to murder your own brother?" "Murder? Please." Karen's tone was dismissive. "I gave him an out. Fake his death, disappear, stay quiet. He chose to come back. He chose to ruin everything I built." "Everything you stole, you mean?" "Semantics." I could see the agent frantically typing, trying to pinpoint her location. I needed to keep her talking. "You sound bitter, Karen, like someone who lost control." Long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was tight. "I never lose control." "Really? Because your niece sang like a bird, gave the FBI everything. Your accounts, your safe houses, your contacts." I was bluffing, but I made it sound convincing. "The Volkovs are looking for you, Karen. They want their money back." "You're lying." "Am I? Check your Cayman account. The one ending in 7734. Silence. She was checking. "Empty, isn't it?" I said softly. "The FBI and the Volkovs made a deal. Emily cooperates. They get their money back. Her charges get reduced. But you stole from them. You're not safe anywhere." "You did this." Her voice shook with rage. "You. No. You did this the moment you chose money over family." "Family?" She was yelling now. "Robert was going to destroy us. Michael was weak. I did what had to be done to protect what was mine." "You kidnapped your own nephew. To teach him loyalty." The agent gave me a thumbs up. They had her location. "Goodbye, Karen," I said. "This isn't over. I'll come back for you. For Sarah. For all of..." I hung up. Jason Martinez burst into the room. "Montreal. Private terminal at Pierre Elliott Trudeau Airport. She's waiting for a flight to Moscow. RCMP is moving now." Karen's POV shifted to the television screen in front of us. The FBI had patched into the security cameras at the Montreal airport. Karen sat in a private terminal lounge, perfectly composed in an expensive coat. Her luggage sat beside her, probably packed with cash and fake passports. She checked her phone, and I could imagine her face when she saw the empty account balance. Royal Canadian Mounted Police entered the terminal in force. 6 officers, weapons drawn. "Karen Anderson, you're under arrest for money laundering, conspiracy to commit fraud, kidnapping, and flight to avoid prosecution." For a moment, she didn't move. Then she stood slowly, setting down her phone with deliberate care. "I want my lawyer." "You can call them from detention." As they handcuffed her, she looked directly at one of the cameras. I couldn't hear what she said, but I could read her lips. This isn't over, but it was. The news broke within hours. The media descended like vultures. International fraud ring exposed. Russian mob connections. Prominent attorney's sister arrested. They still called Robert deceased in the early reports. That would change once he testified. But for now, his resurrection remained a secret, a card we'd play in court. I watched Karen's perp walk on the news. She didn't look broken. She looked furious, defiant. Like even in handcuffs, she believed she'd win. She was wrong. 4 months later, we sat in a federal courthouse. The gallery was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and a few brave former clients of Anderson and Associates. Emily testified first as part of her plea deal. She wore an orange jumpsuit and kept her eyes down as she explained everything. The recruitment by her uncle Nikolai, the mission to infiltrate Robert's firm, the embezzlement scheme, Michael's kidnapping. "Why did you do it?" the prosecutor asked. "I was raised to believe family loyalty was everything." Her voice was flat. "My uncle needed help. I provided it." "And Michael Anderson? Did you love him?" She hesitated. I thought I did, but love was never part of the assignment. In the gallery, Michael flinched. Sarah grabbed his hand. When it was Karen's turn, she pleaded not guilty to everything. Her defense was simple. She was a victim, manipulated by Emily and the Volkovs. They threatened my life, she testified. I had no choice. Then why did you flee the country? The prosecutor asked. I was terrified. With $3.2 million in offshore accounts? They forced me to move that money. I was trying to protect it for my family. The jury didn't buy it. Neither did the judge. Robert testified on day 5. The courtroom erupted when he walked in. The supposedly dead man, very much alive. Cameras flashed despite the bailiff's orders. Karen's face went white. Robert explained everything. The embezzlement discovery, the threats, the staged death, Jay Martinez's help, the FBI investigation. Why didn't you go to the police initially? Karen's defense attorney asked. Because my sister had connections throughout the local justice system. Judge Morrison, Captain Reeves, the county prosecutor. They all owed her favors. I needed federal intervention to ensure a fair investigation. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, emails, recorded conversations, Emily's testimony. The shipping container with Michael's blood still on the floor. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty, on all counts. Karen showed no emotion as the verdict was read. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, as if the entire proceeding were beneath her. The judge didn't show mercy. You betrayed your family, your profession, and your country. You showed no remorse, only contempt. I sentence you to 30 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole. Emily received 15 years for her cooperation. Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. We didn't stop. We walked together, Robert, me, Michael, Sarah, Daniel, a united front. 6 months after the trial, we'd settled into our new life. We didn't take witness protection, but we did move. A small coastal town 3 hours north, the kind of place where people nod in greeting but don't ask too many questions. Robert and I rented a small house near the water. Old wood, creaking floors, the smell of salt air in every corner. It suited us. I started teaching again, part-time at the community college, literature classes. The students were young and uninterested in my past. That was fine. Robert worked for a legal aid nonprofit, helping people who couldn't afford lawyers. He said it felt like penance, but I knew it was more than that. It was him remembering why he'd become a lawyer in the first place. Michael lived nearby in a small apartment. He was seeing a therapist twice a week and working remotely as a software consultant. The divorce from Emily had been finalized quickly, annulment based on fraud. Some days were better than others, but he was healing. Sarah and Daniel had moved to the same town. She worked at the local hospital in the ER. He'd taken a position at a small firm, doing honest work for honest clients. Last week, she'd told us she was pregnant. We had family dinners every Sunday. Simple meals, lots of laughter, no secrets. This particular Sunday, I'd attempted to make garlic bread. Michael held up a piece. Mom, you burned the garlic bread. I did not. It's caramelized. Everyone laughed. Real laughter, the kind that comes from people who've been to hell and back together. After dinner, Robert stood with his wine glass. I want to say something. The table quieted. A year ago, I made the hardest decision of my life. To fake my death, leave my family, and fight from the shadows. He looked at me. I thought I was protecting you, but really I was underestimating you. Laura, you saved us. You saved Michael. You were braver than I ever was. I felt my eyes burning. I had good motivation. Michael, Sarah, I'm sorry for what you went through. What we all went through. He paused. But I'm grateful, because it showed me what actually matters. Not money, not career, not even safety. Family, truth, and second chances. He raised his glass. To second chances. We all clinked glasses, the sound like small bells ringing. Later, Robert and I walked along the beach. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. We didn't hold hands, we'd never been that couple, but we walked close, our shoulders touching. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't seen you that day?" I asked. "At the funeral?" "All the time. You said the truth has a shape. I just followed it." He smiled. "And it led you back. The tide crept in, cold water reaching my shoes. I didn't move. The cold felt grounding, a reminder that we were still here, still real. That night I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. It's been a year since the trial. Karen is in federal prison in West Virginia. Emily is in Texas. They'll likely never see each other again. Michael is doing better. He smiles more. Last week, he mentioned a woman he met at a coffee shop. He blushed when he talked about her. Progress. Sarah is pregnant. 3 months. She cries every time she mentions it. Happy tears. Daniel is already building a nursery. Robert and I are us. Different than before, but still us. We talk more now. We don't take anything for granted. Sometimes I think about that day at the funeral, how I saw him in the crowd and thought I was going crazy. Turns out I was the sanest person there. Another Sunday dinner. Another gathering. But this time, there was a new face at the table. Sarah's daughter Emma was 3 months old. She slept in a bassinet near the table while we ate, occasionally making small sounds that stopped all conversation. Michael brought a date. Her name was Claire, and she worked at the bookstore downtown. She knew everything about Emily, the trial, the kidnapping. She'd looked at Michael on their second date and said, "That's a lot of trauma. Are you getting help?" When he said yes, she'd nodded. "Good. Want to get coffee again?" I liked her immediately. "Claire's teaching me to cook," Michael announced. "Real cooking, not just microwave stuff." "Should we invest in fire insurance?" Sarah teased. "Definitely," Daniel agreed. More laughter. Emma woke up and started crying. Sarah lifted her, and the baby quieted immediately. I watched my daughter become a mother and felt a strange peace settle over me. After dinner, Robert and I sat on the porch while the others cleaned up inside. The ocean was calm tonight, barely a whisper against the shore. "We lost almost everything," I said quietly. "Money, careers, sense of safety. But we gained something too." Robert took my hand, something he'd started doing more often lately. "Truth and each other. Is that enough?" He looked at me with those same sharp eyes I'd fallen in love with 30 years ago. "Isn't it?" Inside, I could hear Michael laughing at something Claire said, Sarah singing softly to Emma, Daniel loading the dishwasher while humming off key. "Yes," I said. "It's more than enough." My phone buzzed. A news alert. Karen Anderson's appeal denied. Will serve full 30-year sentence. I showed Robert. He read it and nodded once, then deleted the notification. "It's really over," he said. "Yes." We sat in silence as the sun set, painting the sky in colors that had no names. Somewhere beneath the ocean's surface, the wreckage of other lives lay buried. Stories no one would ever tell. But ours had found its ending. Not a perfect one, not tragic, just real. And that, after everything, was enough. On the mantel inside, a new family photo sat in a simple frame. All 7 of us, Robert, me, Michael, Sarah, Daniel, Claire, and baby Emma. Smiling, real, alive. The photo we'd taken last week at the beach, the one where Sarah had set the timer and we'd all rushed into frame laughing as Michael almost dropped the tripod. The one where Emma was crying and Claire was making faces to calm her. The one where Daniel's eyes were half closed because he'd blinked. Imperfect. Messy. True. Exactly how a family should be.